Blody Fesser. A name that resonates through the annals of music history, a name that evokes a myriad of emotions and memories, a name synonymous with laughter, controversy, and a unique brand of humor that was as dark as it was enlightening. His work was a blend of the morbid and the hilarious, a cocktail of emotions that left you both amused and contemplative.
I remember hearing his music for the first time. It was an experience unlike any other, a moment that felt almost surreal. It was like nothing I'd ever encountered. His sound was raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. He blended punk rock with biting social commentary, creating a genre that was uniquely his own. His lyrics could make you laugh out loud one minute, with their sharp wit and clever wordplay, and then stare blankly into the abyss the next, as the weight of his words sank in.
Fesser wasn't just a musician, though. He was a provocateur, a satirist, a cultural critic who used his art to challenge the status quo. He was a voice that refused to be silenced, no matter how controversial his views might have been. He used his platform to challenge societal norms and make people think, even if it meant making them uncomfortable. His goal was never to make people feel at ease. It was to provoke thought, to spark debate, to make people question their own beliefs.
His humor was dark, yes, but it was also deeply intelligent and thought-provoking. It was the kind of humor that made you laugh and then think, wait, what did he just say? It was humor that required you to engage, to listen, to think. It was humor that left a lasting impression. He wasn't afraid to push boundaries. In fact, he seemed to relish it. He thrived on the edge, always testing the limits of what was acceptable. In fact, he seemed to relish it. He thrived on the edge, always testing the limits of what was acceptable. And while his approach might not have been for everyone, there's no denying the impact he had on those who connected with his work. There's no denying the impact he had on those who connected with his work. His fans were loyal, passionate, and deeply moved by his art.
He made you feel like you were in on a secret joke, one that the rest of the world wasn't in on. One that the rest of the world wasn't in on. It was a feeling of exclusivity, of being part of something special. And that, I think, is what made him so special. He created a community, a sense of belonging, a shared experience that was both unique and unforgettable. His concerts were more than just performances. They were events, gatherings of like-minded individuals who found solace and joy in his music. He had a way of connecting with his audience, of making each person feel seen and heard. He was more than just a musician. He was a friend, a confidant, a voice for the voiceless. His legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of those who loved him, in the music that continues to inspire and provoke, in the laughter and the tears that his work evokes. Blody Fesser may be gone, but his spirit lives on in his music, in the memories of those who knew him, and in the impact he had on the world. He was a true original, a one-of-a-kind artist who left an indelible mark on the world. And for that, he will always be remembered. Blody Fesser, remembered not just for his music, but for the way he made us feel, the way he made us think, and the way he made us laugh. Blody Fesser, forever in our hearts. Fesser's humor was a potent cocktail of dark wit, sharp satire, and unflinching social commentary. His jokes were meticulously crafted, each one a blend of biting sarcasm and profound insight. It was as if he had a sixth sense for the absurdities of life, and he used it to concoct a unique brand of humor that was both thought-provoking and entertaining. He had this uncanny ability to find the absurd in the mundane, the hilarious in the tragic. Whether it was a simple observation about daily life or a deep dive into societal issues, Fesser's humor always struck a chord. He could turn a trip to the grocery store into a commentary on consumerism, or a visit to a graveyard into a reflection on the human condition.
He could make you laugh at things you knew you shouldn't be laughing at. His jokes often walked the fine line between humor and offense, but that was precisely what made them so impactful. They forced you to question your own beliefs and biases, to confront the uncomfortable truths that we often try to ignore. And that was the beauty of it. Fesser's humor wasn't just about making people laugh, it was about making them think. His comedy was a form of social critique, a way of holding up a mirror to society and exposing its flaws. And in doing so, he created a space for dialogue and reflection, a space where people could come together and laugh at the absurdity of it all. He forced you to confront the darker aspects of life, the things we often try to sweep under the rug. His humor was a way of shining a light on the things we prefer to keep hidden, of bringing them out into the open where they could be examined and understood. And in doing so, he helped us to see the world in a new light, to appreciate the beauty and complexity of life in all its messy, contradictory glory. He held up a mirror to society, exposing its hypocrisies and contradictions with a sardonic grin. His jokes were a way of challenging the status quo, of questioning the assumptions and norms that we often take for granted. And in doing so, he encouraged us to think critically, to question our own beliefs and to strive for a deeper understanding of the world around us.
His jokes were like grenades, exploding with uncomfortable truths and leaving you to piece together the shrapnel of your own preconceptions. Each punchline was a revelation, a moment of clarity that cut through the noise and confusion of everyday life. And in those moments, you could see the world as it truly was, stripped of its illusions and pretenses.
Some people dismissed him as being too edgy, too offensive. They couldn't see past the surface of his jokes, couldn't appreciate the deeper meaning behind the humor. But for those who took the time to understand, who were willing to look beyond the shock value, Fesser's comedy was a revelation. But those who got it, those who understood the brilliance beneath the darkness, became lifelong fans. They saw the genius in his work, the way he used humor to explore the complexities of the human experience. And in doing so, they found a kindred spirit, someone who could make them laugh and think in equal measure. Because beneath the layers of satire and morbid humor, there was a heart that beat with a genuine desire to make the world a better place, to use humor as a tool for change. Fesser's comedy was a way of connecting with people, of reaching out and touching their lives in a meaningful way. A heart that genuinely wanted to make the world a better, or at least a more self-aware place. His humor was a way of bridging the gap between people, of creating a sense of shared understanding and empathy. And in doing so, he left a lasting legacy, a testament to the power of humor to change the world.
One of the most intriguing aspects of Fesser's work was his recurring theme of the pontiff death loop. This concept was not just a fleeting idea, but a profound and consistent element that permeated much of his artistic output. Fesser, known for his dark and imaginative mind, used this theme to delve into complex and often unsettling questions about existence, power, and the human condition. He imagined a world where every pope, upon his death, was immediately reincarnated as the next one. This idea of an endless cycle of papal rebirth was not just a fantastical notion, but a central metaphor in his music. It allowed Fesser to explore the idea of continuity and change within a rigid structure, questioning whether true transformation is possible within established systems. This endless cycle of papal rebirth became a central metaphor in his music. Through this metaphor, Fesser was able to weave a narrative that questioned the very nature of identity and legacy. Was each pope truly a new person? Or were they simply a continuation of the same soul, trapped in an unending loop of duty and expectation?
He used it to explore ideas of fate, free will, and the cyclical nature of power. The spinning wheel of fortune and the changing seasons in his visuals symbolized the relentless march of time and the repetitive nature of history. Fesser's work suggested that power, much like the seasons, is cyclical and often returns to the same points, raising questions about the possibility of true progress. Was each pope truly a new person, or were they simply doomed to repeat the mistakes of their predecessors? This question was at the heart of Fesser's exploration. By portraying different popes and their historical contexts, he highlighted the recurring nature of human folly and the difficulty of breaking free from established patterns. It was a question that seemed to fascinate Fesser, and he returned to it again and again in his lyrics. His notebooks were filled with musings on the nature of identity, the burden of legacy, and the struggle for genuine change. Fesser's deep thought process and his relentless questioning of these themes made his work resonate with many who felt trapped in their own cycles.
Some saw it as a commentary on the Catholic Church, a critique of its hierarchical structure and resistance to change. The grandeur and rigidity of the Church's architecture in his visuals underscored this interpretation, suggesting that the institution itself was caught in a loop, unable to evolve. a critique of its hierarchical structure and resistance to change. Fesser's portrayal of the clergy in formal settings, often depicted as solemn and unyielding, reinforced the idea that the church, much like the popes in his narrative, was resistant to transformation and stuck in its ways. Others interpreted it as a broader statement about the human condition, our tendency to get stuck in patterns and repeat the same mistakes throughout history. The contemplative expressions and philosophical discussions in his visuals suggested that this was not just a religious critique, but a universal one, applicable to all aspects of human life. Our tendency to get stuck in patterns and repeat the same mistakes throughout history. Fesser's historical reenactments and montages of repeated mistakes served as a powerful reminder of the cyclical nature of human behavior. Whether in politics, society, or personal lives, the same errors seemed to resurface, challenging the notion of progress. Whatever his intention, the pontiff death loop became a signature element of the Fesser mythology, a testament to his dark and imaginative mind. The image of a figure in papal robes trapped in a spinning hamster wheel was particularly striking, symbolizing the inescapable nature of the cycle he described. This visual, combined with his intense performances, left a lasting impression on his audience, a testament to his dark and imaginative mind. Fesser's ability to blend deep philosophical questions with compelling visuals and haunting music made him a unique voice in the artistic world. His exploration of the pontiff death loop was not just a recurring theme, but a profound commentary on the nature of power, identity, and the human condition, ensuring that his work would be remembered and debated for years to come. Behind the laughter, Fesser was a complex individual. He grappled with his own demons. He could be deeply paranoid at times. One of his biggest fears, oddly enough, revolved around the animated sitcom Family Guy and its creator, Seth MacFarlane. Fesser was convinced that MacFarlane was stealing his jokes, lifting entire bits from his stand-up routines and incorporating them into the show.
He'd spend hours dissecting episodes, convinced he'd uncovered secret messages and hidden meanings. While there was never any concrete evidence to support his claims, it became an obsession.
Some speculated that it stemmed from a deep-seated insecurity, a fear that his work wasn't original enough. Others believed it was just another manifestation of his dark humor, a way of poking fun at the absurdity of celebrity culture and the entertainment industry. Whatever the reason, Fesser's Family Guy fixation became the stuff of legend, a bizarre footnote in the life of an already eccentric artist.